Hi, I'm married to my high school sweetheart. We've been together 17 years and have a sweet 2-year-old named Teddy. I'm a silversmith and I overcame a long battle of PPA and PPD. I'm Christy and I'm a miraculous mama.
Hi, welcome back to the Miraculous Mamas episode. I'm your host, Elizabeth Joy, and we believe in empowering women through storytelling and education. And I'm so glad that you are here. If you are listening to this podcast for the first time, welcome. I am so glad that you are here with us today. And if you are one of our regulars, welcome back. And don't forget to hit that subscription button and to leave us a review. Tell us about the guests that you are loving and why you love this amazing community. Today, we have such an exciting episode for you. We have Daniella Monet on, and she is just such a delight to talk to. I have such a blast talking with her, and she just announced that she's pregnant with her second baby. She announced it the day after our interview, and it's so funny because when I interviewed her toward the end, I asked her about having another kid, and she answered it. And I almost asked her during the interview, I was almost like, wait, are you pregnant? Because I got this vibe from her. And I'm like, I probably can't ask her on here, like if she hasn't announced it. And then the next day she posted that she was. So maybe I have some weird intuition vibes going on. I don't know. But we have such an amazing chat. And I will have her tell you about what she's up to. And it was just good to connect with another mom who's not that far ahead in the journey than I am. She's about a year further than I am into the motherhood journey. So it was just a blast. But if you guys didn't listen last week, Dr. Rhonda Patrick was on talking about the science of breast milk, which was a great episode. And I know I said I was going to be coming out with my postpartum blog post, which I have roughly drafted. This mom stuff is hard, man. I still feel like I am learning. I mean, by the time this episode comes out, I'll be 6 weeks postpartum, and I'm trying to find that balance. I feel like Jovi and I started to kind of get into a little bit of a groove. I'm actually sitting on the floor in my living room watching her on a sleep camera right now. It's 9:00 at night, and this is when I can record. Oh, she just opened her eyes. But I'm watching her on the sleep camera, and I've been sharing on Instagram and talked about it in the Facebook group about how we've been dealing with a tongue and a lip tie. And it's just, there's so many things that come up that you aren't prepared for, right? You think that, I'm going to have, my birth didn't go at all like I planned. Obviously, we weren't planning on her being in the NICU and then this and I just want the mamas listening to know, like, I understand like a lot of things don't go as planned, but definitely try to find the joy in it, because there are days where I feel like things pile on top and I'm like, man, this is tough. Today was hard, and I have a good cry, but also I look at her sweet face and I'm just like, oh, she's so worth it. And just really trying to find the joy and to give myself grace. Like today, I wanted to get so much more done than I did. And we had a really wonderful morning, and then we had a really rough afternoon. And I'm like, okay, I put clothes in the washing machine. I washed the fruits and veggies and thawed something for dinner, which we didn't even eat. So I ended up eating a frozen organic burrito from Costco for dinner tonight. So things just don't always go as planned. And people who know me, I love cooking dinner. I love cooking dinner. I'm such a planner, preparer, and I have some freezer meals saved, but I don't want to use them yet. Cause I'm like, I got to save that for when I'm really desperate. Like I don't want to dig into my freezer dinner stash yet, because I think just because once they're gone, then it's like a safety net, of plans that I made. But there is an awesome zucchini lasagna in there that I made that I might have to bust out really soon. But I feel like you learn so much going through it. It's easy to judge from the outside, and I have to admit that I have judged people. I'm like, man, this person said that they haven't been able to do this. They haven't been able to shower in 3 days because of whatever. And I'm like, really? That's crazy. And now being in it, it's like, wow, I can really understand how that happens. It's so easy for the days to go by when you're just trying to settle a fussy baby. And like, I didn't eat lunch today till 2 p.m. And that was my first meal of the day. And that's also not good because you need to be nourishing your body and taking care of yourself and your health. But it's so easy to get put on the back burner when there's so much to do. So I have a blog that was supposed to be posted, but isn't. So thank you guys for being so patient with me. And I'm excited to get it out with you because I share some things that people never told me and that I wish I would have known, and even just some things that were way harder than I thought. And there was other things that weren't as hard as I thought it was going to be. So I'm very just kind of being raw in my postpartum journey in there. So I'm super excited to share that with you. If you guys aren't a part of our Facebook community, you're going to want to join it because the women in there are amazing and I love them so much. Also follow us on Instagram and Twitter at Miraculous Mamas. And we just are so grateful for our community and for the people who continue to come back and listen to the podcast. I really, really appreciate your guys' support. I'm passionate about this. I love doing it. And it means so much to me that you take time to listen because I know it's not easy to find that time. So thank you guys so much. We're going to take a quick break from this episode so I can tell you about my new favorite piece of jewelry, and it is from a company called Orate, and they are so amazing. Their pieces are real gold, and that means that they last forever. You never have to take it off, shower, sport, sleep, cook, anything. It is jewelry for life. Also, they are ethically made. Orate is ethically made in New York City, empowering women with the best jewelry options without sacrificing style. And for every piece sold, a child in need receives a book to further their education. And you know how much we love partnering with companies that give back. Also, it is by women and for women. Orate was started by two friends during brunch when one got a green finger from an overpriced ring. We have all been there, which sparked a conversation about how they were fed up with the traditional jewelry market. Orate was founded on the desire to shake up the jewelry market by offering modern women beautiful designs, amazing quality at affordable prices. Also, they have an ode to nature. They just launched on September 23rd that they will support the Conservation Action Fund by donating to save 1 acre for every ode to nature order. Orate will provide shoppers with the number of acres saved and carbon stored as a result of donating to this project. They are also they just launched September 30th that they will donate 20% of proceeds on every bamboo collection that they have to Last Chance to Save Bamboo lemurs. And so they are just awesome, giving back by women for women. And I had been searching for a pendant necklace, and I've actually wanted one forever. I told Vito I wanted a P for Presta a long time ago, and I just could never settle on a piece that wasn't either super, super expensive or kind of cheaply made. So that is why I'm so happy that I found Orate, because I just ordered from there a little pendant necklace that has a little J on it for Jovi. And I am so excited because it's high quality and I didn't feel like I completely broke the bank buying it. And I know that it's going to last forever and I can just continue to add on when I have more kids and get a new one. And I'll have to show you guys a picture on Instagram because it is seriously the cutest necklace. I love gold dainty jewelry. So super excited about this piece. And right now, for you guys, you can save 15% off your first Orate purchase when you go to oratenewyork.com/miraculous and use promo code miraculous. That is AURATE NewYork.com, and use the promo code Miraculous, oratenewyork.com/miraculous. But I'm going to go ahead and start the interview with Daniella because it is awesome and I love her passion and she is just such a light in this world. All right, everyone, I have Daniella Monet here, and I'm so excited that she has taken the time to come on the Miraculous Mamas podcast. She's a little bit ahead of me in the motherhood journey, so I'm just super excited to pick her brain and get some motherly advice from her and see how this first year has gone, and also to talk about her businesses and her lifestyle choices and why they're so important and why she's passionate about them. So thank you so much for taking the time to come on.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to jump into all the things.
Yeah. So just tell us, I guess, a little bit about yourself.
Sure. So I have been a mom now for almost a full year. And, that's my main priority, my main job as of now. But prior to that, I think most people would know me from being an actress. I've been on probably most known for my roles on Nickelodeon, like playing Trina Vega on Victorious. And since then, I have become what I like to call an ethical entrepreneur, where I've leveraged some of the opportunities I've had, the platform I've been given and grown, and basically invested in companies that cater to the conscious consumer and slowly the masses. I am plant-based and have been vegan for just over 20 years now. So I've found it challenging along the ways to find convenient lifestyle choices, being that I was vegan and then also at an accessible price point. So that is been my focus for the last 5 years. My first investment was in a company called Outstanding Foods. We've launched pork rinds and we have a few other products on the horizon, which are really exciting. And then I got into the restaurant space, which seemed fitting, also terrifying, and invested in a restaurant called Sugar Taco here in LA. And we are just about to start renovation on our second property. And then I co-founded Kinder Beauty Box with my partner, Ivana Lynch, from the Harry Potter series. And that was probably the first time where I was knee deep in the startup space and really saw everything from start to where we are today. We're a fast growing subscription beauty box that comes to your door every month. It's at a cost of $25 or less, depending on how long you subscribe for. Everything is vegan, cruelty-free, clean. And then we donate a portion of our proceeds to our favorite environmental and vegan organizations. So that has been a huge labor of love. And now my nearest and dearest project that I started working on while I was still pregnant with Gio over a year ago is my diaper line. And I'm sure I'm sure you can actually attest to this, because I don't know if you're the same as me, but I remember being pregnant and not thinking much about all the things I needed, but all the diapers I was going to waste. And I was like, oh my gosh, I just want to find a diaper that works, that isn't going to compromise, my ethics. I wasn't sure about going into the cloth diaper space. I'd heard mixed stories, and a lot of people said you end up using so many resources in order to clean those diapers that sometimes the good outweighs the bad. So I was on a mission to create an ethical diaper that was gentle on the environment and the very first vegan certified diaper at that. So Sprouted was born and we are right on the cusp of launching. So this has been all sort of happening while becoming a mom this first year.
Yeah, that is so crazy. Because becoming a mom is like a total transformation in itself. Just even, I feel like, I don't know how it was for you, but I guess for me, it's like all of a sudden I'm a mom, and it didn't feel weird calling her my daughter, which I thought maybe it would at first. Cause when my husband and I got engaged, the first time you say fiance, it sounds weird, and you're like, oh, I have to get used to that. Or the first time you say husband. But then it was immediately like, oh, my daughter. And it didn't feel like a term I had to get used to. It just like fit. But then it's like, I don't know how to be a mom, like they hand you this kid and they're like, here, good luck, take care of it. Mm-hmm. And, so you're learning so much. Like how are you able to do all of this while like learning to become a mom?
I'm honestly not sure. And I feel like so much of 0 to 6 months was a blur postpartum. And it felt like a good portion of that I was hanging on by a thread and just surviving through the days and finding that way to survive through the days. And then in the last 6 months is when I really felt that sense of rhythm and flow and what people were telling me would happen eventually. And I couldn't wrap my head around it. Sleep deprivation is a real thing, and I know you are in the thick of it. So I am I'm here for you. It's wild in the beginning. And, of course, like it doesn't matter if feeding your baby is a task, but if you're breastfeeding, then there is a lot of pressure on you, and the baby really is relying mostly on the mom. And so that was like a huge transition. And I think women are just the most powerful human beings in the entire world, because it's not easy. It's the most challenging job in the world, but it's also like, you just do it. Like you just get through it. And right now I'm at a place where I can look back and it really feels like, how did I do it? How did I get here? And how is this so different than the first 6 months? And it's only been a year. Like it blows my mind how quickly they change and how many stages you go through.
Yeah, for sure. I know, even I'm only like a few weeks into it, and I already like see stages, So I know, and everyone's like, it gets easier. And I do feel like I told my husband that because I love my sleep. I'm somebody who like really values my sleep. And I was like, I don't know how I'm going to do this. But then you just do exactly what you said. I'm like, I do. I just get up in the morning and I'm like, oh man, I'm so tired. I don't know how I'm going to do it. But I get out of bed and I do it. Like, I don't know how it happens, but it does. It's so mind blowing, because pre-baby, I would have been like, there's no way. And as a mom, you do.
I'm with you. It's unbelievable. I mean, the lack of sleep that we get for, consecutive weeks and months at a time is like the most hard thing to comprehend. But in the weirdest way, and I cannot believe I'm even saying this, because I remember being in the thick of it, and Gio was a big eater, and I exclusively breastfed, and he was an awful sleeper. So I had the combination of just feeling like there was no winning most days. But looking back, it's weird. It's like, it's hard to even remember how hard it was. I mean, I was sobbing at times. I remember even going on my story and shockingly being so transparent and just just crying, like, help. I don't know how I do this. I've never felt this kind of sleep deprivation. And I was actually different than you, where I don't really require a ton of sleep. Like I can go to bed late and wake up early and operate pretty much the same way. I'm sure it'll catch up to me at some point, but I thought I'd be fine, and I wasn't. And it was really scary at times, because I just thought I was losing my mind. I would get shaky. I felt depressed. I felt it's the hardest thing to explain. But like I said, women are just I have a whole new perspective on motherhood, other moms, and just women in general, because we see, like, I don't even know that we see the path, but we stay on the path. And that to me is like a feat in itself, because eventually, and it does happen. And again, I'm like blown away that I could say this, because I was so in the thick of it. Eventually you're like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. And there's so many magical moments and things that just make you realize, like, oh my God, it is so worth it. Like everything about it is so worth it. And there's nothing better.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that. All right, we're going to take a quick break. to talk about the Newton crib mattress because I'm obsessed with it. And babies spend up to 17 hours a day sleeping, but most crib mattresses are made with cheap hard foam wrapped in plastic, and more importantly, they're not breathable, which increases suffocation risk and leads to overheating and sweaty backs. They're also not washable, which is obviously kind of gross. So more than ever, getting a good night's rest is crucial, and knowing that your child is safely asleep is one less thing to worry about for new parents. And I know for me, it is huge for me not to have that worry. We're still in that newborn infant phase, and I get up constantly if she hasn't cried in a while to check to make sure that she's still breathing. But Vito and I both did the Breathe to Believe challenge. We smushed our faces into the mattress and we can breathe, which gives us the confidence to know that if Jovi, that she can breathe in it as well. So that is why we chose to go with the Newton crib mattress. Also, it's fully breathable, washable, and recyclable. It's a 2-stage baby crib mattress. And the baby can get up to 97% more air while breathing through a Newton crib mattress, more than any other traditional crib mattress, providing you with that peace of mind and reducing inevitable paranoia. It's also Green Guard Gold certified, which is super important to me, and it's voted number 1 by leading pediatric experts and sleep coaches worldwide. This is the best baby mattress that you will find. And Newton Baby is offering the listeners $50 off your Newton crib mattress plus free shipping. Just go to newtonbaby.com and enter code MAMAS. You can also try 100 nights of sleep on the Newton Baby. And if you're not happy, Newton offers free returns. Just go to newtonbaby.com and enter code MAMAS. It's 100% washable. This investment will actually save you money in the long run because you can pass it down from child to child. So head to newtonbaby.com and enter code MAMAS to get 50% off with a 100-night sleep guarantee. You have nothing to lose. So if you are looking for the number 1 baby mattress out there, again, 100% breathable and backed by top pediatrics worldwide, then look no further. So many parents have claimed that their Newton Baby mattress is a complete lifesaver, us included, completely eliminating any fears and angst as a parent. Remember that Newton Baby is offering the listeners 50% off your Newton crib mattress plus free shipping. Just go to newtonbaby.com and enter code MAMAS. You can also try the 100 nights of sleep on Newton Baby. And if you're not happy, Newton offers free returns. Just go to newtonbaby.com and enter code MAMAS to get 50% off today. You can't put a price tag on your child's safety. I'd love to talk about just a little bit more of your postpartum journey because that's where I'm going to be this next year, I guess. What was different than what you thought? I already know for me, there was just things that, and I work as a birth doula, so I'm really educated in birth and things like that, and even some stuff that comes after, but I'm I didn't know that for me, I got the night sweats really bad the first couple weeks. I would wake up just drenched in my own sweat. And my BO is way worse now that I'm nursing. And there's just different things that I wasn't prepared for. I got a hemorrhoid and that is horrible. And I'm how come nobody told me? So there's definitely things that I feel like you're not prepared for, but then there's other things that maybe, like you said, you're in the thick of it, but you do it. So I'd love to hear kind of on your postpartum journey, what was maybe a little bit different than you imagined.
So one thing that sticks out in my mind, because it was probably the biggest hurdle for me, was complications with breastfeeding. So on day 5 postpartum, I got mastitis.
Oh my gosh.
And I had no idea that it could happen so quickly, but I had such I was an overproducer and I think I did it to myself looking back, I would do things a little bit differently. I was so obsessed, and I'm sure moms listening who have this idea of breastfeeding can relate to this, but I was so obsessed with being successful at breastfeeding because I was so scared of all these stories you hear and people not being able to follow through or have issues, that when he was born, they put him on me and I instantly put him on my nipple. Like I was like, I need to get this latch right. And then it became a subconscious like obsession where I was constantly, anytime I was holding him, I was nursing him. And so I created like a major production that I couldn't keep up with. And so I ended up pumping like several times a day and then nursing on the clock. And one morning I must have slept more than, 2 hours, and I had mastitis. I had a crazy fever, clogged ducts on both sides. My boobs were extremely hard. I was so uncomfortable. I remember reaching out to everyone I could. I had to spend time in the shower that day in hot water, like massaging, using absolutely everything. And to be completely honest, like a vibrator is a very good tool to have in the event that you get mastitis, because that really helped like get all the little, ducts clear. But it was like a process that I went through on and off, probably for a few weeks. And then I got it again about 2 months down the line. And then eventually I found my rhythm. And what I learned personally is that I didn't need to pump. I didn't know why I was pumping really to begin with. I wasn't told, I never saw a lactation specialist. I always just felt like I knew this intuitively. Like I've got motherhood, and I think I had just an ego about it all. And I didn't want anyone to like skew my vision or get in the way of however I handled it. And long story short, I went through a little bit of a journey with breastfeeding, but found my way after that 2-month postpartum mark and realized like I could pump maybe once a day and find that feed time and do that, repetitively and not, overproduce. And then I became the person who actually never gave him a bottle. So once the pandemic hit, I got rid of obviously pumping, and then I didn't need a bottle because it was just him and I just fed exclusively up until just recently when he weaned himself, which was wild too, because I thought for sure I was going to have an issue, being that he was so hungry and loved breastfeeding. But eventually, it's crazy. One day he just looked at me and he looked at my boob and he looked at me and he like giggled and he wanted nothing to do with it. And I was like, okay, we'll try again next feed. And then nothing. And so it's so funny. You look into, I think for me, what I've learned is like, I need to stay more present as a parent. There are so many stages, and I felt like I was worried about like, oh, what's it going to be like to wean him? And then eventually he just figured it out on his own. And here we are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I feel like it is easy to jump ahead of yourself, even like I'm just, I feel like what's it going to be like when she sleeps through the night, But last night I was just like looking at her nursing and I'm like, oh, I just love you so much. Like, I love these moments, even though I'm tired and, it's like, man, she did sleep 5 hours. She went a 5-hour stretch last night, which was awesome.
Amazing.
So, she was exhausted, but my boob was like going to explode when she woke up. So, but yeah, it was, I'm like, oh man, when she sleeps through the night, I'll be like, oh, I'm sure I'll be like, oh, I kind of miss you,
Oh, it's weird. You end up scrolling through your phone way more than you need to, the pictures and the videos. And yeah.
Oh yeah, that's so fun. How was postpartum, I guess, with your marriage? Do you feel like, that, I know it can be so hard, especially when the baby's relying on you and you're exclusively breastfeeding. And, so I know like for me, I'm the one just kind of getting up in the middle of the night because there's really nothing for my husband to do. I can be like, there was at the beginning, I would kind of feed her, then I'd be like, hey, you burp her and change her. But now I just do it. And, I don't, luckily, I haven't felt like resentful toward him or anything because he does so much for our family as well. But I know that it can have such an amazing impact on your marriage, seeing your husband become this father. And I just love for you to speak to that.
Sure. So in the beginning, I think Andrew would agree to this, and he's admitted it before, but he had like some PTSD from birth, from my experience, which is unique because, and maybe it was the drugs, but I back at my birth story and think it was miraculous and so far from my original quote unquote plan.
Yeah.
I intended to have like a water birth or a home birth, and that was, my intention. And long story short, one complication after another, I ended up with an emergency C-section. And I think Andrew just wasn't prepared for it. So I think when we got home, there was a little bit of postpartum on his end that was pretty obvious to me. I remember, like night would come, and that for me, I'll never forget. Like I would get these like weird night terrors, but I would look at him for like safety. And it was the first time I felt like we were both very much out of sorts. Like I knew that I was going to have my own journey, but it was weird to look at him and realize like he was very much feeling the weight of this responsibility and the transition in life for him as well. And being that I had to recover from a C-section, 2 weeks postpartum, Andrew decided that he was going to resign from his job. He worked in the finance world, and he just thought, there's no way that I can go back. Like, this is way more than I could have ever imagined. And how are you going to do this? And he didn't want to leave. And so we ever since have figured out what that looks like financially for our family, and he's found his way. But I'd say in the beginning, yes, absolutely went through a lot of transitions in our relationship. I think we relied so heavily on each other that it brought us very close. There were definitely hurdles along the way. And one that I can think of is when I decided at about 4 months postpartum that I was ready to sleep train. I never thought that I would be that parent. In fact, and I'll be honest, like I thought sleep training wasn't a good fit for me. I felt like it just never felt right in my body. I just couldn't imagine letting him cry it out or force him to do anything, because I was just so easily ready to put him on me and, soothe him or whatever. And then one day, 4 months postpartum, I said, Andrew, you are sleeping in the other room, because he couldn't handle crying. Like that was not okay with him. Still to this day, if Gio is fussy or is whining, it really gets under Andrew's skin. I have much more of a tolerance for it. So I said, you're sleeping in the other room, and I've got this. Like, I got this. So for 3 nights, I committed to sleep training him. And we got to the other side of that. But I think leading up to that, it was really hard on him, even though I was the one doing the majority of the wake ups. He had a harder time with just like, I think that was the hardest thing for us to go through, is to get on the same page with either not sleep training him and then eventually deciding to sleep train him, and realize like when you're in the thick of sleep training, you don't see the light quite yet, because it feels so overwhelming. You're hearing so much more crying than you're used to, because before you would just soothe or feed or pacify or whatever your method is. And then one day when you decide like we're going to teach him or her how to soothe themselves and fall asleep on their own, it's not easy. Like for a baby who's been soothed for 3 or 4 months at that point. So that was probably the hardest part for us. But once we got those 12 hours, sometimes even more than 12 hours, which is mind boggling, going from like at the thick of that, the hardest part of him not sleeping, he was only sleeping an hour at a time. So I was like, no way we're going to go from an hour at a time to 12 hours minimum. And here we are. And I stuck to it, and I stuck to a nap schedule, which was really weird for me because I'm not a schedule oriented person. I'm very spontaneous. And the idea of a schedule overwhelmed me. I was really open about that on social media. And now I get it. It's like everything I thought I wasn't going to do, I ended up finding on my own and finding comfort and flow and safety, and it worked.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I agree with that. I'm not a schedule person either, but I'm already like, I feel like having a schedule allows you time, like since your son's sleeping so well, you can get up in the morning and take a shower and make like you have that moment of trying to, have some time for yourself and you and your husband as well. Cause I know this morning I'm like trying to make a smoothie and trying to breastfeed and like trying to she was like sleeping off and on for the first few hours and eating in between. And I'm like, I'm never going to get ready for this interview, cause it's like, there's no schedule right now, you know? So I'm not a structure person either, but it sounds ideal, you know?
Eventually, I think I found that it took me a minute to really commit to it because there's so much training involved in getting a schedule locked down that it was hard for me to wrap my head around the idea of teaching this newborn that he's supposed to sleep and wake up at this time. Like, that to me made no sense. One thing that I did sort of realize that some people told me is that, like, you really won't figure out his schedule until 4 months and later. Because, and you can try, absolutely. People have had success earlier than that, but I had a hard time with the sleep thing in general. He was never really a good sleeper ever. So it did take until 4, 5, even 6 months to like feel like he really understands sleeping. And now for the last probably 4 months, I put him in his room. He could be wide awake for 10 minutes and he'll fall asleep on his own with zero sound. Like, I assume I put him down in a few minutes, he's asleep. I'll look and he's like cuddling with his little, like, it's crazy. It's a different world now. And it happens relatively very quickly.
Yeah. All right. We're going to take a quick break from this episode. So we've talked a lot about postpartum in the previous episodes, and we're talking about it this week with Daniella as well. And there is so many things that can happen in postpartum that can affect your happiness. And then it's not even, a lot of people think that it's just the first few weeks after you have a baby. It can be up to a year or even a little bit longer when postpartum can hit. And I want to talk to you about BetterHelp because it is such an amazing resource that will assess your needs and match you with your own licensed professional therapist. You can connect in a safe and private online environment. It's so convenient, and you can start communicating in under 24 hours. And it is professional counseling. They can help with depression, stress, anxiety, relationships, sleep, trauma, anger, family issues, grief, self-esteem. And I mean, it's not obviously just for postpartum, but I know so many of the women listening to this podcast are in a similar place as I am. But even just being a mom or trying to conceive, all of these can be really stressful situations. And it's not very often that people ask, how are you? What do you need? Are you doing okay? Your focus is on your kids so much. So it's really nice to have a resource like BetterHelp out there that is convenient, affordable, that you can communicate in a convenient way for you, whether it's text message, email, or you want to have a video chat. And it's a safe environment just to get the help that you may need. And I want you to start living a happier life today. And as a listener, you'll get 10% off your first month by visiting betterhelp.com/mamas. You can join over the 1 million people taking charge of their mental health. Again, that's betterhelp, HELP.com/mamas. Now back to the episode. So looking back, I guess, at that beginning part, do you and Andrew, do you guys want to have more kids eventually one day? Cause like, it's still fresh that how tough it was in the beginning. Like, is that something you feel like you could do again?
So up until 6 months postpartum, I thought there wasn't a chance. I thought I originally wanted 6 kids when I was younger. So it was shocking for me to be like, one and done. That's it. Learn my lesson here. This was more than I could bite off. But come about 6 months old, when we started really getting into food and finding our rhythm, and sleeping was becoming so much easier. I was getting sleep. I was like, I get it. Like, I get why people, because now it felt like everything was happening so quick. And then I started to freak out because I was like, well, okay, now the newborn stage is so far behind us, or at least it feels that way. And I'm embarking on food, and we're moving into new clothes. And it's like all of this was happening so quick that I could see very quickly how you could want another one. And we did. We were like, yes, it finally, yes, we can see it happening.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know. My husband and I had always talked about having 5 kids. And when I was in labor, I kept looking at him and saying, one and done. It's one and done. We're done after this. And he's already like, babe, like, I want another one. This is amazing. And I'm like, I need some time. But I know, like, I want to give her a sibling. But I'm in the thick of it right now, so I can't really process that
That's so
information.
fair. It's so fair.
Yes. So I'd love to get into your plant-based lifestyle. So you said you started 20 years ago. So was that a choice that like your family made when you were younger to do?
No, actually, I was about 5 years old when I decided to eat vegetarian. I didn't really know that that was a thing. I had witnessed a rodeo on a small dude ranch, and I never seen animals tortured right in front of my eyes. And so at 5, you're pretty inquisitive, and just I asked enough questions and later realized that that's where, dinner came from. And I couldn't comprehend it. And I just knew at that point, like, my whole thing was like, I'm not going to eat animals. Like, I'm not going to eat them. So stuck to that for a long time. And it wasn't until I was just about in 6th grade, so going into middle school, my uncle was passing away of cancer. And I remember, because I was eating vegetarian at the time, my aunt said, come on over. We're having someone teach us how to cook vegan. I didn't even know what vegan was. But we need to do this because, your uncle needs to eat vegan. He's not well, and this is going to help him. So it was when that happened that I put the two together about like eating vegan is good for your health. And then when I learned more about veganism was when I read the book Skinny Bitch, which is an interesting title for a book about factory farming. And when I learned about the business behind animal agriculture, I realized like it was all a facade. Like none of it was actually good for me. And it was destroying our planet, and it was bad for our health. And of course, it's cruel. And so that was like when I decided to go vegan. I was about, 11 or 12 years old. And ever since then, I think it's been like a slower learning process in the beginning. I didn't realize how much animal products were in just about everything we ate, what we sat on, what we, it's everywhere. And over time, I've obviously learned more, and it's become my life.
That's really cool. I feel like a lot of people may not know, like you said, I mean, you saw the rodeo, so you kind of like put things together, but we're very disconnected from our food. So you're not really picturing like when you eat a hamburger, I'm eating a cow, we're very disconnected. And the factory farming industry does have huge repercussions on the environment. But not only that, like the majority of the crops grown in the United States are for factory farming. And if you use those crops to actually produce food that people could eat, you could almost cure world hunger with that. So that is like a huge statistic to me that I'm like, holy crap. So we're producing all of this genetically modified corn and spraying it with a bunch of stuff. And the stuff that we're spraying it with is actually getting blown onto other fields. I remember watching this thing with these organic cotton farmers whose crops are being compromised by the chemicals being sprayed on this corn that was like miles down the road from them, being fed to the cows. And just the whole cycle of it is putting crap in the soil. So our soil's not the same. And it's just like this huge cycle. Like you said, it has these impacts on the environment. And it's something that we're so disconnected from. So I love that that's like, because it's something I never talk about. I don't really like have these conversations with people. So I love that you're passionate about that and how it's gone into other areas in your life. So how, how did you get into from just the food into like your box company and finding those products and speaking out about that stuff as well?
So I realized that someone had to like step up and help give these brands a platform, because awareness is so important. We vote with our dollar, and supply and demand is the reason for pretty much everything right now. And I know that at the end of the day, the food industry is an industry. It's a business, right? So they're going to continue to do what's profitable for them. And that doesn't have our best interests at heart most of the time. And there are so many lies. And I just wanted to be a part of products and companies and brands that were doing things differently. And the only way that they can do things different and do it at a cost that met the needs of the masses was with support and with financial support and with someone who could stand up for them and shed light on them. And so, yeah, I mean, that coupled with, the fact that, to be honest, I was growing up and I was in an industry that was inconsistent, and so much of the entertainment industry, I just didn't always agree with. I wanted to be very selective about the projects I worked on. And when I realized that like I could actually be investing in companies and part of companies that I was proud of, that gave me purpose, that like went beyond just me and business, that's when I realized this is my focus. Acting will always be there, and I can be selective and I can find the roles that, fit my morals and are fun. But for me, I am so excited to be on the journey that I'm on and proud of the companies I'm a part of. And that speaks like volumes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's awesome. So I'm going to ask probably the annoying main vegan question that you get. So what do you do for protein then, since you're a vegan?
Oh, you went there.
Yeah.
It's funny. Someone asked me that. I get that out all the time, but someone asked me that the other day, and I've kind of come to terms with it where I don't have one answer. I've never really focused on protein because I've never felt deficient. So I eat balanced. I eat sort of, like I said, I'm pretty intuitive with decisions I make. I'm an intuitive eater. So when I'm craving something, I don't deprive myself. I've never dieted. Not necessarily never. There's certainly times in my life where I had this skewed vision on my body and went through issues there. But I'd say in the last 10 years, I felt like the healthiest version of myself. And I've grown to really understand that food is such a vital tool, and we can get all the nutrients that we need from really good, clean sources of food. Eat colorful produce. Everything that we eat essentially has protein in it. Obviously, in addition to so many other nutrients. But if you think about it, animals get their protein and everything that they need from plants. So what I do essentially is just take the middleman out, let them live their best life, and go directly to the source. I've just never really focused too hard on it. And I know that, of course, if you did need to up your protein for whether it be health reasons or you're literally just trying to do something in the fitness space, like there are so many options, of course. So it's never been a huge concern for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I know that that's, like you said, a question that you get all the time. It's like, you're a vegan, so what do you eat?
Yeah. What do you eat? Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Food.
Yeah, I know. It's like, well, I eat so much of the same food that you eat. You know that you eat primarily vegan. The only thing that's different is that you also eat meat
Right.
and dairy and things like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Do you have a couple of like favorite vegan companies that because I know that there's like vegan cheeses and a bunch of different stuff out there. Do you have like a couple of different companies that you really love their products?
Yeah. I love, the thing for me is like, cheese and dairy is usually the hardest thing for people to part. So I always point them to brands like Miyoko's, Kite Hill. There's so many plant-based milks, so I'm sure people are more familiar with those. But in terms of cheese, I would certainly give Follow Your Heart, Parmella, Kite Hill, Miyoko's, BioLife. That would be like my go-to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know. I tried. I don't think I'd used a good vegan cheese once. I made this recipe and I couldn't. The cheese was not doing the right things.
You have to, it's funny because like there are cheeses that I will use for specific things. Like Miyoko's makes an amazing mozzarella that I think is just the best. But then I specifically love Follow Your Heart's shredded mozzarella for like, certain other things, or certain cheeses melt better than the others. And you find your way. But honestly, they're so much better now. I mean, when I first went vegan, I don't even know that I had an alternative for a while.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah. There are tons of options now and tons of restaurants like the ones you're invested in. I know the last time I was in Southern California, which was a while ago, my friend took me to a vegan Thai place and it was amazing. I loved it so much. I grew up in Nebraska, so there's not a lot of vegan options there.
Yeah, I bet.
Vegan restaurants, but I live in Chicago now, and there's definitely some awesome options here. I would love for you to touch on Sprouted, because we actually just started cloth diapers yesterday because, again, for me, the environmental impact and some of the ingredients just in regular diapers. And I interviewed somebody who started a cloth diaper company, and yes, you do use water washing them, but she was saying the environmental impact is still lower. But I also know cloth diapers aren't always the most convenient thing. And so I'd love to hear more about your company, Sprouted. And when is that going to be available?
Yay. So we're supposed to launch probably by the time this episode comes out, I think next week. So, Sprouted is going to evolve. Unfortunately, there isn't a ton of disruption in the diaper industry to make it so important that environmentally friendly options are the priority. So our main goal at Sprouted is environmental impact. And I think hand in hand with that would be functionality and comfort. Because one thing that I realized when I was testing diapers that were more environmentally friendly, they were rougher. They weren't as leak resistant. They couldn't handle volume. And in my opinion, unless you want to change a diaper every hour, you need a diaper that can last, right? That's wearable. Now that Gio, my son, is all over the place, I certainly need one that's not going to fall off of him and make a mess. So yes, convenience and functionality is very important. But my main reason for developing Sprouted was to help with the waste. And so we're on a mission to figure out just about every way that we can cut back on the environment and also just have better standards and practices in place. We have a great relationship with our factory, and we're going to be super transparent. So there will be everything that you need to know about what's in your diaper, where it comes from. Are those people treated with fair working conditions? Everything that is important to me, I'm instilling into this diaper company because it is the first one where I'm primarily the only founder. I'm the only face. It's a big deal for me to put my name on something like this. I mean, moms are a real community, but as you also know, there could be a lot of flack with that as well. And so I want to be sure that I'm honest about everything. It's likely that we'll partner with some sort of recycling organization, something similar to TerraCycle, so that we can help figure out a way to dispose of these in a better way. And I think a lot of it just comes down to education. Unfortunately, so much of our population is just very wasteful, and we don't have that same connection with our goods. And I think having that conversation and telling the story behind our production will hopefully help people understand that, there's an education piece. We don't need to be so frivolous. If your son or daughter, if the line becomes just a little bit, blue because there's a little pee, they'll live. You know what I mean? Make sure that the right materials and are used, so that way you don't have to worry about rashes. You don't have to worry about things being on your newborn's body that you don't want to be there. So yes, it'll be an evolving conversation, but right now we feel really, really good about our diapers. And I think as more becomes available, we will be the first to market to create those options. And the fact that we're the very first diaper that's vegan certified is huge for me.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I honestly feel like people want to support good things. So when I hear of clothing companies that are made in an ethical factory and where, people have good working wages and things like that, I would rather buy from them versus fast fashion, just because the more you learn about it, you kind of want it. You're like, oh, wow, I didn't know that. I didn't even think about the fact that these people making these clothes are making $1 a day and treated horribly. And most of the clothes end up in Haiti, like in a giant dump. And so I feel like the more you learn about it, people do want to support that. So even hearing like, oh, vegan certified, what's in the other diapers that makes them not vegan? Like I didn't even know that. I didn't know like there's animal products in other diapers.
There's animal products. Unfortunately, a lot of our glues and a lot of our like lubricants and things like that are used on factory machines can be derived from an animal. It's just a really barbaric way of doing it. And I'm sure that over time it was not easy to become vegan certified. I mean, it was not easy, but I'm so glad that we stuck it out because these companies and these bigger factories that have more of the power need to know that it's important and need to know that like they can make adjustments on their end. This is silly. It just because, it's status quo, it's the way they've been doing it for so long doesn't make it right. So that's part of just my job as an investor and someone who wants to, stay true to like my ethics is to bring up those conversations. And if it wasn't doable, it wasn't doable. I wouldn't have done it. I wouldn't have done the diaper line. So here we are.
Yeah, that's so exciting. I can't wait to see them. So if for moms who are listening and they have a business idea or they have something that they're really passionate about and they want to start or do, what would be your advice to them?
So what helped me was using motherhood as a tool for propelling me into the motivation in the future with these companies, because I think a lot of the times the conception on parents or on moms is that you should focus on your child. You should be there. And I think you can do it all. And I think for me, my biggest motivator was creating something for Geo, for our family, for us to give back, for us to, create a comfortable lifestyle so that we can help others along the way. And I think it's all doable. Listen, I know this sounds crazy, but once you get to a place where you're getting more sleep, and I tell this to Andrew all the time, I have 2 naps a day. Okay. And then I have 12 hours of him sleeping, and he goes to bed at between 6:15 and 6:30 sharp. So if I can't get enough done between those times, then it's on me. And then the rest of the time I'm 100% involved. And I'm really grateful that I've established that foundation. I think everyone that I work with, my teams, and I think something that's important for moms who want to create something for themselves at some point, when it makes sense, get comfortable with delegating more. And I know that it's so hard for females in general to ask for help or to tell people to handle something for them because it's a lot easier to take care of it ourselves. But at the end of the day, in order to become successful in anything we do, including motherhood, is to be able to say, hey, I can't take all this on. Can you do this for me? Or, maybe you can't necessarily nurse or wake up all night, but can you handle the dishes and the food or whatever it may be? That's going to help find that peace of mind and give you more time to focus on things that matter.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Thank you so much for that. So you and your husband have a podcast. Where can people listen to you guys at?
Awesome. Thank you for mentioning it. It's called Adulting Like a Mother Father. It's on just about everywhere you can listen to podcasts. It's pretty raw. We started about 3 weeks postpartum, so right where you are. And I know how challenging it can be when you're trying to time things and you're leaking and I get it. So huge props to you. And yeah, it's been a huge tool for us in our relationship, building our community of adults and fellow parents. So we enjoy it.
Yeah, that's so awesome. And then where can people find and follow you at and learn more about all of these amazing projects that you're involved in?
Thank you. I'm pretty much on most platforms at Daniella Monet, Monet, and Daniella with 2 L's. And of course, you can look up all of my individual companies like Outstanding Foods, Sugar Taco, Kinder Beauty and Sprouted are my true babies. And we have a lot going on with Kinder Beauty that is happening quickly. We actually have a sale happening as well. So always stay up to date with those things.
Yeah, awesome. Well, thank you again so much for coming on and for sharing with us.
Thank you so much for having me. And I wish you just so much love, and just you're amazing. And I can't believe that you are even sitting there and it's dead quiet. I don't know how you did it.
My mother-in-law's over. So.
Oh, nice. Awesome.
Yeah. Well, thank you again.
Thank you.
Don't forget to check everything out that she is doing. I'm so excited for her diaper company. That was super interesting. I feel like I learned, and I feel like I got to connect with another mom, get some mom time, have a little bit of peace and quiet. So it was so refreshing talking with her, and I can't wait for you guys to hear what we have coming up. Next week is going to be super exciting. We've never done an episode on here about sex. And like I shared, when this episode comes out, I will technically be 6 weeks postpartum. So that is when your doctor usually gives you the green light to start having sex. So we get pretty real and raw, and I talk with Shan Budram on here, and she's into sexology and psychology, and she's an intimacy educator who teaches people to be confident. So she is just awesome. She has great content, and I know that she's super passionate about what she does, and she's pregnant right now. So it's interesting to always hear people's perspectives on pregnancy and sex, because I know so many people who that for them, they were sick or they just didn't want to be touched, and so many different things. And other people, it's opposite. Pregnancy hormones are weird, and they affect everybody differently. And that's the same with postpartum as well. So it's going to be an awesome episode. So cannot wait to talk to you guys next week. Again, thank you so much for listening. Hit the subscribe button, leave us a review, a 5-star review, and let me know what you're loving about the podcast. All right. Have a great week, guys.
Did you know that everyone has an aura? Do you know what color your aura is? Maybe you have a fiery red personality or a quiet and calm blue or green. You could be an organized and methodical yellow or an explosive purple. Come join me, Mystic Michaela, on my podcast, Know Your Aura, to find out all about how your personality can be explained in color.